Hello and welcome to the channel. First I thought I don't need to make an beginner's guide for the A320, but I also often get the questions about the startup procedures and how it all works. So I thought, okay, since there come new simmers every day, I will make a beginner's guide for the in-game A320, the Builds A320 Neo, but of course this is also for the other A320s like the fly-by-wire A320 and so on. And I will try to make it as accurate as possible and as quick as possible, because I think it will be a long video. And yeah, before we start, you of course need a flight plan, and therefore you might want to make an account on SimBrief. There's the option for a free account and the option for a paid subscription model. I would recommend you to make a subscription. I think, if I remember correctly, they offer monthly payment, which you can end every month. So you could make a subscription just for 1 month to get a feel if you like it or not. You can also make a free subscription without any costs, but then you are in the situation that your data is not on the actual cycle. There are so-called RAC cycles, and if you don't have the subscription model, then the data might not be correct, and that could cause trouble later down the road, because then you have might have false data. So I don't want to tell you what to do, but if you don't have the subscription model, keep that in mind. You could get into trouble. So I also don't want to go too much into detail of SimBrief. If you would like a deeper dive into SimBrief, then leave a comment down below and I will consider making a video as a deep dive video for SimBrief. But for now, I assume that you have the correct version and you can follow me for this setup here. So let's just start with this with our flight planning. We are flying Air France machine, so I give the airline code AFR for Air France. The flight number, I always choose 3098, that's my gamer tag. The departure will be Charles de Gaulle in Paris, LFPG, and our destination is Schiphol, Amsterdam, called Eham. So the alternatives we don't care about. Then we choose the aircraft. It is the A320N, and the airframe is the Builds Microsoft Flight Simulator A320 Neo V2. So that's the aircraft you all have in your flight sim. Then just click on Generate Flight. So, and then you can click on Open in Charts, and there you have your flight plan in the charts. What we now want to do next is we want to search an approach. We will land on runway 27, so we will select an ILS approach for runway 27, which is here with the transition river. Just click on Add to Route, and there you have it. Okay, so now I will disable this window here. I have to say that's my 4th or 5th attempt to making this video, so if it is helpful and if you like it, consider giving it a thumbs up, because it is a lot of work. It's I will leave the SimBrief window out of the video now, because I always forget that I have it still on, because I don't see it in my here OBS window, and then I talk and talk and I show and always the window is in front and I have to start all over again. So I leave it off for now, and I just tell you what I insert in the plane. Okay, so now let's take off these stupid covers and the chocks and press Shift C to get into the airplane. So now we are in the airplane. It's in the state called cold and dark, meaning there's no power on the airplane whatsoever. And now I will follow the checklist and procedures. Normally I do it out of my mind. I don't follow the procedure, but for the sake of this video I will try to make it as exact as possible, so there's no misunderstandings and there are no misunderstandings. Okay, let's start. Parking brake is on, then weather radar is off, predictive wind shear is off, spoilers disarmed and retracted, flaps retracted, engine mode selector is on norm, engine masters are off, thrust levers are on idle, transponder mode is on standby, auto skid is on, and landing gear lever is down, wipers are off. Okay, let's start with our cockpit preparation. Battery 1 and 2 are on, external power enabled, APU and engine fire tests. Let's start with the APU test. Don't hear sound. Let's wait a second. Again. Still no sound. We have to wait till the self-test is done. Okay, now again. APU fire test. Okay. Engine 1. Okay. Engine 2. Okay. So now crew supply oxygen enabled. AD IRS number 1, 2 and 3 on nav mode. Cockpit lights as required, so we have enough light, that's okay. Then nav and logo lights, we set them to 1. Then no smoking signs, auto. Emergency lights, arm. Okay, now we set up the EFB. Here on our EFB we will click on SimBrief, which pulls the data from SimBrief. Here we have our departure, LFPG, and our arrival, and here's the weather data. That's all good. Then we check the ground. GPU is toggled, that's okay. Chocks are away and the covers are away. That's all good. So let's check our payload. Therefore, click here on SimBrief again. Now our payload is pulled from SimBrief, and we apply the load. Since we don't use GSX and no other third-party add-ons, it doesn't make sense to wait for the aircraft to load up, so we just click on instant, meaning the aircraft now is fully loaded and fully refueled. So that's all good. Okay, so now we perform a light test. That's here, put on test, and check if all lights are on. That's the case. Disable it again. So then probe window heat. It's okay, we don't need it now. Anti-ice is off. Air condition as required, that's okay. Brake pressure is okay. ECAM status, no warning, that's okay. ECAM recall, no warning, that's okay. Radio panels, we don't check the radio panels for now because we don't have ATC enabled. If you know my channel, I always use Beyond ATC for my ATC, and I use AIG as traffic injection because I don't want to mess around with airplanes falling over the head and airplanes running into you while you taxi or flying into you while you start or land. It's a big mess. I think you know that all. The in-game ATC is completely useless and the in-game traffic is even worse. So I disable it altogether. I don't want to mess around with it. I really recommend you to use a traffic injection like AIG, and also Beyond ATC, highly recommended, but for this video I won't use it because we want to keep it simple and for starters. Okay, let's go on. So where were we? Radio panels setup. Okay, we don't do that. Baro. Here we check the barometers. You can check the baro in the dashboard here. You would see the QNH is 1021. Now you could dial it in or just press B, then it's all set up. You have to cross check if all three QNH settings are the same. That's the case. So now we have to set the constraints, have it on ARC, that's okay. And I also enable the VOR. And now we already can go to our before startup check. So windows, I hate this. So windows are closed. Okay. Doors are closed. That's okay. Now let's start up the APU by pressing the master switch first. Wait a few seconds and then press the APU starter switch. And now you can monitor in this window here that the APU is starting up correctly. And also you will see an ECAM message that the APU is available when the APU is started up correctly. Also you can see it back here when the hot air is coming out of the APU. Also you can hear the APU running or starting up. But of course you can do it in real life. You don't get out of the plane and look if the APU is running. Of course not. Okay, now it says APU is available, which means we can enable the APU bleed. And now we can start to set up our MCDU. Therefore, we click on init to initialize, then we click on init request, and then the MCDU will get our data for our flight. Then we will click on flight plan, and now we click on our starting airport, LFPG, click on departure, and since we know we want to start from 27 left, we will search it in this list and click on it, and our SID will be norm 6 alpha. Just scroll through the list until you find it. Here it is. Just click on it and click on insert. Then we'll click on EHAM, our destination, click on arrival, and we know we want to make an ILS approach on 27. Just go through the list until you find it. Here it is. ILS runway 27, click on it. Our star is Denu 3 alpha. It's already here. Just click on it and we choose the via river and insert. So now we can go on plan mode and click through the flight plan and search for discontinuities, and we already have one, which is here. We want to get rid of it by clicking on clear until it says clear, and then click on the flight plan discontinuity and it's gone. Now we can go on, click through the flight plan, and we don't see any discontinuity until the end, so that's okay. We can go back to ARC. The next thing what we want to do is we want to set our fuel and weight. Therefore we go back in the EFB, go on our payload side, and this goes down again. That's disturbing. Okay, here we see our zero fuel weight is 58.768 kilograms. So we go ahead, 58.7, what did I say? 768 kilo, and then followed by a slash, and then we need the center gravity of our zero fuel weight. That's 28.9%. So we type in 28.9%, we don't type in, and then we click here to the right side on the button. Now the MCDU will calculate our fuel over the trip. So we don't have to care about it anymore. We have a minimum destination fuel on board, what we should have, of 2.3 tons, and now we have 2.2. Normally you would get a little bit more fuel so that you don't have too little fuel when you arrive, but we don't care about it for now. We don't want to crash because of 0.1 ton, that's okay. And next we want to take care of is the performance page. Therefore go back to the EFB, click on Takeoff, and we know we want to start from 27 left, and here's 26 left. That's wrong. Click on 27 left, then we will synchronize the weather and go to the config tab and click on calculate and then send to FMGS. And here on the performance page we have to confirm the data, and all done. So now what we want to do is we want to enable the flight directors, and since we don't use ATC, you just enter the cruise altitude and press the button. So where are we? Now we would set the squawk code, but we don't use ATC, so we just leave it on 2000. So now we want to disconnect the external power. Now we want to enable the fuel pumps. Now we set the seatbelt signs to on. Check the thrust levers again, they are still on idle, that's good. The fuel quantity is checked. We know we have 0.1 less, but that's okay. The takeoff data is reviewed and is okay. Okay, now we set the transponder mode to auto. It's always hard to get to this button here. Okay, done. Now we set the beacon lights to on and the strobe lights to auto. And we set the engine mode to IGN start. And normally now we would request pushback and start. We don't use ATC, so we just initialize our pushback by hand. Therefore we go on the ground page and enable the pushback by clicking on backwards, also AFT. Now we can release the parking brake and pushback begins. Let me just check how we want to push. We want to push left. Okay, that's good enough. Set parking brake. Now we want to start engine 2 and we want to monitor the engine start. when the engine is full started, it will say available here in this field. Okay, engine 1 available, start engine 2 available, start engine 1. Okay, available. Now we can set the engine mode back to norm. Disable APU bleed, disable APU master switch. Set auto brake to max. Go on flight control. Set our flaps as in our performance page. It's flaps 1. We set flaps 1. And now we see we have to put it on up 0.3. That means we pull the wheel 3.3% up. Here you can see the pitch trim is now 0.3% up, as shown in the performance page. Next is ground spoilers armed. Now we will check the flight controls. Full up, full down, full left, full right, rudder, full left, full right. Okay. Now we check the rudder trim, it's on 0, that's okay. Anti-ice we don't need, flight instruments are checked. Okay. Now we would ask for clearance for taxiing. We don't need that because we don't use ATC again. Now we test our takeoff config. It says normal. Here all green is important. Now release parking brake and start our taxiing to the runway. We can give a little bit of thrust. It always depends on your weight, how much thrust you give, but you don't want to exceed 30% of N1 and you don't want to exceed 20 knots here. Just keep that in mind. Of course, I forgot the taxi light. Okay, let's stand here. So, before takeoff, cabin crew advised, okay, braking temperature is checked, then brake fans off, okay, engine mode selector as required, it's on norm, packs as required, they are on, weather radar on, protective wind shear on, TCAS on, nose wheel light, takeoff, runway takeoff, and landing light on. Ecam Nemo, all green, no blue. Okay, ready for takeoff. So now you can do either way a rolling takeoff, meaning without stopping on the runway, or you can stop on the runway and then make a takeoff while standing. I will make a rolling takeoff now. In takeoff it's important that you push down slightly the side stick until you reach 100 knots and then release it, and you put your thrust levers to flex if you make in flex takeoff. Also you need to do with the rudder to keep it in line. So you have to work with your feet. Now we reach 150 knots, which is our takeoff speed. Okay, take off. Now gear up. Now disable nose light and runway takeoff light. Just keep it slightly over 10 degrees. And now there will come a message which says leveler climb. Mean we put the thrust levers on climb. And now we can enable autopilot 1. So we did come a little bit away from the course, but that's okay. Now we can retract the flaps and also disarm the speed brake. Now we are approaching the transition altitude from which is 5,000 feet. When we do so, we will set the QNH to standard. which is now the case. Standard, cross check, all three are on standard now. Since it's winter and there are clouds, I will enable anti-ice 1 and 2, engine anti-ice, sorry. Yeah, winter, it's spring, but it's still cold. So now we are approaching flight level 100. At flight level 100 you disable the landing lights and disable the seatbelt sign. Also on the way down, so when you are on the approach at 10,000 or flight level 100, you enable the landing lights and enable the seatbelt lights. So flight level 100, and we set it on auto. Okay, that was the startup and start procedure. The video now is at 42 minutes. If I cut it a little bit, it's already long enough. So, if you find this video helpful, I know it's very long, but if you still find it helpful, please give it a thumbs up. Please consider to follow the channel, it would help the channel a lot. And also if you have any questions and I'm able to answer them, leave it down in the comment, I would be happy to help. And also, as you might have seen, or as I already have told you, I'm not a real pilot. This is all what I learned by watching real pilots and by doing and reading and watching videos about real air pilots, airplane pilots flying airplanes. I'm talking too much. Yeah, I hope still you could learn something from this video. I will just see if there is enough interest in this video, and if you guys like this video, then I will consider making the rest of this video for the approach phase. But like I said, it's a lot of work, it's very time consuming, and I will see. If you like it, then I will do it. If not, then this was the first and the last part, and maybe there will be a second part if you like it and if you want it. Okay, have a nice day. Bye bye.